If you're watching this video, I guess you are considering or have been considering starting your own home bakery. And as someone who has been home baking, then switched to a physical store and then back to home baking, these are the tips maybe mainly I wish someone had shared with me when I started out my home baking business, and also things I have come to learn along the way as I've been home baking. I have been sharing in my previous videos, I've talked about how it was running my business. I've also posted about things I think I should have done for sure before opening a physical store. So if you're trying to decide whether it's home baking or physical store, I guess you should watch the video. I'll definitely leave it in the cards and also in the description box. So definitely have a look. Stay along for the video and see what the things I personally would have done different to make my life as a home baker easier. Before you start, obviously you have seen very many home bakers, very many baking businesses, and let me tell you, the market is definitely saturated. I won't lie and say it's not, but it is. As someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, I have seen like the baking business, the industry, the market getting bigger and bigger, more and more saturated. And for sure, I can't lie and say it's not for everyone. It's an easy business to get into, but it's also very difficult. And despite it being saturated, I would always say, go for it. Even when I started baking, there was literally where I used to stay, there was a bakery right there, and I still started. I remember one of my primary when I was starting out, one of my primary school classmates had started a bakery, and it wasn't so far from where we used to stay. So I have aunties who used to bake, and I started baking after them, and definitely it's a very huge world. I remember I saw a TikTok or a tweet that said by the end of this year, from next year, there will be 8 billion people in the world. So we're just like, as much as it could be saturated, our industry is still so tiny, and there is always going to be room for everyone. So don't let the thought of, but it's already saturated. It will still be saturated whether you start tomorrow or start next year or start 5 years later. If anything, the longer you postpone starting, the more and more it becomes saturated. So just start. It will still be saturated. Things won't change. It will still be saturated. Everyone you know will still know an auntie who bakes, a friend who bakes, a cousin who bakes, a mom who bakes. So just start. There's no tomorrow. And in a way, I would also put it this way. If you think about it, a market looks saturated more and more the longer you a good example I'd give is a car. If you're driving a red car, if I'm driving a red car, I will tend to notice more and more red cars on the road than someone who drives a black car. And then when I switch to, maybe I'll be like, you know what, I want a black car because there's too many red cars on the road. Once you buy that black car, you will see so many black cars on the road, and you'll start feeling I'm not special. So that's the same concept. When you're someone who's in like a completely different industry, probably doesn't see how many baking industry being as saturated as someone who's already in this industry. So don't let that stop you. Don't let the thought of, but it's already saturated. It will forever be a saturated industry. And I'm pretty sure even when I started out, because there was not as much social media presence as there is now, it was probably still as saturated, but back then we relied mainly on word of mouth, as opposed to now, where as much as we rely on word of mouth, our Instagrams, our TikToks, our YouTube channels, WhatsApp, that's what sells us. So it seems like there's more bakers. I know for me, on my baking page, I think I follow like 300 bakers at the moment, locally, internationally. So I don't think that if you keep telling yourself, but the industry is saturated, it won't stop being saturated. Maybe by the time you guys are watching this video, I'll have followed another 100 bakers, and it will never change. One of us will retire, but as soon as I retire, 10 more people are joining the industry. So don't let the market saturation stop you. You have to know everything that you need to know about your business. Don't be the baker who decides, I'm going to do only buttercream cakes, so I'm only going to learn how to work with buttercream. Learn everything that comes with baking. Learn how to make fondant, learn how to make fondant flours, learn how to make sugar paste. You don't have to perfect on them, but you have to learn how to work with each medium, because every once in a while you'll need something to purchase something, and when it's not available, like say I need to put those, like on cupcakes, that small cutting, the fondant thing we cut and then inscribe the name. If I can't find fondant, maybe I need to do it in pink, and the stores don't have pink fondant or white fondant which I can color pink. What are you going to do? Are you not going to make fondant at all just because, like, solutions, sometimes it's much easier to know how to make something but not focus on it just for that one rainy day where it would be much harder to get. Like, as I always say, I hate making flowers, but I know how to make them just in case. I call the shops or the ladies who do flowers on my behalf for me when I order, for those rainy days when I need them and they are not available, they're fully booked, they won't get them ready on time. I'll just make myself 1 flower, 2 flowers, and then like my client would be happy. So learn every aspect of your business, learn how to do your own accounts, learn how to, like, where to get your ingredients, learn each and every aspect of your business. That way, if your employees, if your delivery guy, if every other thing that makes your business run is unavailable, you're not stranded. Like, you still know, if my baker isn't available, the lady who helps me with baking today isn't available, what is my next option? Is it today I can't take orders, or is it I can do this one cake, albeit being a bit slower? Like, you have to learn each aspect of your business before you can call yourself I'm a home baker. Learn as much. I'm not saying start your business after you've learned everything. What I'm saying is learn each aspect, even if it will take you a bit longer. Like, when I started out, I started with cupcakes and then moved to cakes, and then like kept on growing. The more I learned, the more I like widened or broadened my client base, telling them I can do this. Because even when I started baking, I only had like 1 kilo and 2 kilo cake tins, and then the more I worked, the more I felt comfortable, I got bigger and bigger tins. Started working with fondant, more buttercream, more, like, learn as you go. Keep reinvesting in your business and yourself as a business owner. That way it becomes much easier to run your business. My next point would be, in as much as I've said, learn everything about your industry, about your business, figure out your niche. And this is something I will always emphasize. Figure out your niche. Who do you want to cater to? I mentioned in one of the videos or on an Instagram post, once you decide what kind of business you want to be, it will be much easier for you to run your business, as opposed to first figuring out what kind of business you want. Or in a way, I would say, like, for me, I always refuse any cakes that would need me to use anything illegal, because I don't want to stress myself trying to find them or risk my business, my young life. I'm a baby girl, I can't go to jail. I refuse that life. So I won't do anything illegal. I don't want to do cakes that would make me uncomfortable, like carving out those explicit baby shower cakes. So I've already like niched out. I don't want to do this kind of business. So, but you know what? There's a bakery called the Tipsy Baker or Tipsy Bakery. They specialize in booze cakes only. So people who like alcohol, that's, you know for sure that's where you want to go. But then at the same time, this person has niched out to those specific clients. They wouldn't be able to sell to like an Islamic community. I have another friend who does only vegan cakes. That's her niche. I can do vegan cakes, but for someone who works with vegan, they do all eggless, cakes with eggs. She has found her niche and she serves clients who only want vegan cakes. So for sure, all her clients will know there'll never be cross-contamination, unlike for me. So she'd never have cross-contamination because she's already like niched out. Unlike me, who has, I would have a vegan order today plus an eggless order and maybe another one that has everything. So sometimes it could be hard like not to cross-contaminate, because obviously I'm working with eggs every single day, and then someone else might have like a severe allergy to just even like a drop of an egg yolk. So for Sharon, who's niched out to serve only this type of clientele, she's already like found her market, and that's a good thing. So as much as she would know how to do other types of cakes, she has decided this is my industry and this is what I want to focus on. So even you, as you're starting out, figure out what your niche is, what kind of business you want, like to be remembered for, to be recommended by other people for, like if it's gluten-free, if it's cakes for kids only, if it's for weddings only. If you want to be like me who does everything, just figure out, this is what I want to be. I want to work with whipping cream only, I want to work with buttercream only. You can still learn each aspect, but focus on whatever will make you and your business happy and successful. My next point would be, learn how to separate yourself from your competitors. As I've said, the market is saturated. The market won't stop being saturated because you've stepped into this business. So how would you stand out from your competitors? Do you want to be the person who just does, like your clients say, she has really tasty cakes, but her decoration misses a few marks, but it's still good, or she has very pretty cakes but they're not as tasty? Like, what would make you stand out from your competitors? Because at the end of the day, you will have a set price. What makes people come buy from you and not from this other baker, like from Pastry Pleasures and not from Jane's Bakery? I hope there's no bakery called that here. Jane's Bakery. What separates me and Jane? What's the difference? That's the things you should ask yourself when you're niching out, like separating yourself from your competitors. Because Jane's Bakery could be selling for 5,000 bob and I could be selling for 10,000 bob, but what's the reason why people don't go to this bakery but come to my bakery? You have to stand out, because in as much as you will be expensive, and you will always be expensive, that's a fact. You will always be expensive to one person and cheap to another person. So what makes me, the 10,000 bob baker, get repeat clients, repeat customers every single week that Jane doesn't get? Find out what it is that could set you apart from every other bakery. What's that little detail you give to your clients? Like I see Nusham Royale, when she does like her cake boxes, her cupcake boxes, she always has like a sticker that has like a sweet message, and I find that very like cute. If those cupcakes were to come to me, I would be so happy, whether I bought them myself or like it's a little touch that she adds. When I started baking, I remember people telling me, I like buying White Forest and Black Forest from you because you're generous with your strawberries. Like, find that little thing that will make them come back regardless of whether you're a bit pricier than the other person. So make yourself stand out from your competition, because at the end of the day, the market won't change just because you've stepped into this market. My next point would be, learn the trends. If there's any, I don't know about other industries, but in cakes, trends keep changing like this. So someone like me, I'm not into trends as much, but I do try my best to like follow bakers who I see like coming up with designs, like locally, Gigi, Sweet Things 254, Sarah Bailey. I see them like do designs that are latest, much more than other bakeries. So follow people like that who would like learn the trends. Pinterest, YouTube, like just check. Like for me, every year around deck, when we close for holidays, I spend a lot of time on YouTube and Pinterest checking now we're in 2022. I'll be checking 2023 wedding cakes, 2023 buttercream cakes. That way, I prepare myself like for what might be coming next year, because now we're in December. The designs that have started showing up around October, November, those are the ones that everyone now will start doing next year, like early next year. So Pinterest, YouTube, those are your best friends. Like, keep up with the trends. That way, even if you don't get an order, like, you already know what to expect. If you don't know how to do the design, that's the best time to like during downtime. January is not as busy as even Feb. Learn how to do those designs. That way, when the trend is now everywhere, everyone's doing these designs, you already know, okay, this is how it's done. Follow people who post consistently about trends like that. That way you're always in the know, always know what's popping. In all honesty, I truly believe baking is an industry that will last a lifetime, unless there is like what do we call this? Like dystopia. Like, we live in those dystopian lands or whatever we call them. Like, there was a huge crisis and the world just came to an end. I truly believe baking is one of those industries that will stand the test of time. Really, because if you look at it this way, people will always celebrate something. There's always a celebration. People these days will even celebrate divorces. Weddings are getting smaller, but people are still purchasing cakes. So these are things that will stand. I feel like baking is an industry that will definitely stand the test of time. And maybe I am biased because it's an industry I'm in. But if bringing back to the point where I said follow up with the trend, if you keep up with trends, you will definitely also stand the test of time. Because for someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, I know at this point I have slowed down. I'm really considering if this is the angle I want to take for the rest of my life and whatnot. But I've only been able to consistently continue being in this industry for 10 years, plus, only because I keep up with the trends. I keep changing. I'm not left behind. When other people are doing new designs, I'm not left behind. Only time I'm left behind is if there's a new trend that I actually hate, then I don't focus my energy on that, and I would rather recommend my client to go to someone who does them as opposed to me doing it. For example, cake lists. I remember when cake lists, cake lists, that was trending. I did a few and I was like, this is definitely not for me. It's a no. And I'm seeing lace designs are coming back into the industry, and I'm like, dear God, I don't want to go through this again. But you know what? Since I experienced it back in 2013, 2014, as much as I don't like it, I don't want to do it, I'm not so opposed to it that I would definitely be like, for every client, I won't do this, I won't do this. There's always that one client I'll accept to do it for. So that's the mentality I always try to have. Like, it's an industry that will stand the test of time, but your business will only stand the test of time if you're keeping up with trends, if you're constantly improving yourself. Clients don't want to go look at your portfolio, your profile, and 2013 Wangeshi is still putting out the same cakes as 2020 Wangeshi. You can only stand the test of time if you're growing, if you're changing, if you're improving. So definitely don't give up before you even go far enough. My next point is definitely decide on your target audience. Before you even start, I think I mentioned this in Lessons I've Learned from Entrepreneurship. I mentioned that before you can sell to someone, think about yourself. Can you personally afford the items you're trying to sell to people? Like, do I find cake worth 3,000 shillings expensive? Would I ever purchase a cake worth 3,000 shillings? Is that too pricey for me or not? Because think of it this way. If something is too pricey for me, why am I in the business of selling it? That's the mentality you should always have. So when you're picking your target audience, and it's also why I think some people complain about not getting support from their circle, because if none of the people around you can afford a cake worth 3,000 shillings, how would you be able to sell or get recommendations from outside that clientele? Because in as much as you're more likely to be supported by a stranger before you're supported by someone you personally know, the person you personally know is more likely to recommend you to someone else before a stranger comes to you. So are you able to, if me myself, I can only afford cakes worth 500 shillings, my entire circle can only afford 500 shillings, how am I going to approach someone who can afford 3,000 shillings? So that's your starting point. Don't look at someone else who's in the industry. Like my area where I live, everyone can afford cakes worth 10,000 shillings, 15,000 shillings. So it would be easier for me to start out there. But if I live in an area where people can't even afford to buy milk and bread every day, it would be much harder for me to sell them cake worth 3,000 shillings, because it won't be a necessity. It will be quite an expense. So look at it that way. Before you start saying, oh, hakuna kazi, hakuna biashara, it's not a price thing, it's also an audience thing. Your target market, your target audience, who can afford this? And also when you're niching, look at your target audience, your target market. Like where I stay, it's a majority Islamic community. I'm not a Muslim, so I'm not opposed to selling cakes with alcohol, but at the same time, I know and realize I'm in an Islamic community. So when I started baking, before like I grew outside of my area, I would specifically not use alcohol. Like I would avoid doing fruit cakes, akina pina colada, cakes that would require wine, rums, whiskeys. I would avoid them just because of that. But at the same time, when my clientele started growing outside of this area, of course I am not opposed to using alcohol, so I didn't mind incorporating those to them. And also being aware, I also have Muslim clients, so being aware, like inform them, hey, you can't order for this because it contains alcohol, would you like to order something else? Like for me, pina colada, I have a pina colada option that has rum, and I have a pina colada option that does not have rum. So your target audience, you need to understand your market, who your clients are, what they would eat, what they can't eat. Like if I was in a community where majority are Indians who don't take eggs, then I would also like look at that, like the business that way. Don't just start out thinking everyone around me is going to buy. Some people won't. I have personally been told by a client, she was Muslim, they drove from wherever it is they stay to my house to tell me, since they found out I have a dog, at that time I only had one, that they're no longer going to buy from me because I have a dog. That was the only reason they gave. So I don't know. Look at your target audience. And this should have definitely been my first point. Register your business name. Before you even go far, before you even go to the point where you feel like I should do ABCD, register your business name. Don't put up your business name on Instagram, like a business page on Instagram, before you figure out what your business name is. And I've seen this several times. There will be people who will say, oh, you've registered Pastry Pleasures, let me call mine Wangeshi's Pastry Pleasures. There are people who will bank on what your business name is and then use that. You take so long to register your business name, and then someone else goes and registers your name, so you can no longer legally own that name. They can sue you for using the name on Instagram or marketing yourself. So it's just not worth it. Register your business name before you even go far enough. You'd rather sell the cakes as Wangeshi's Cakes before you even go far enough to start selling yourself as Pastry Pleasures, just because of those cheeky people, those people who like to ride on people's successes. Register your business name. You'd rather register it before you decide if you're for sure becoming a baker or not. Register it before you even decide, am I going to be a baker for sure or not? And then if it doesn't work out, the name, it will still be yours. Like, for example, me, the way I've been toying with this idea of quitting or changing up my niche, etc., Pastry Pleasures is legally my business name. Even if I don't bake for 2 years, I will still own the name. I can decide after 2 years, hey, I'm back to baking, I'm back to being a full-time baker. It will still be mine. But if I never registered it, in that time I'm not using it, who's going to stop someone else from using it as their business name? So definitely register. I'm emphasizing register your business name. Also, registering your business name helps with a few things. You can open a business bank account. You can comfortably get a Safaricom till number. That way you can separate your personal money with your business money. Loans, it's easier, I think, to get business loans. Like, you can separate your personal money with your business money just from a business name. It's very essential. My next point is find a community. Find a community, and not just any community, a community that is actually good for you as a baker, as a person. Like, find a community. There's this thing where when I started baking, I had this mentality for I need all the cake tins, I need all the cupcake things. Like, I needed everything in bulk. Like, even now I think I have the cupcake things, like the one for 12 hole, I have 6, I think. The individual cupcake things, I have like 300 pieces. I have the big oven, the house oven. Like, that's what I thought everyone needs. But here's the advantage of having a community. Now, years later, one baker from around where I stay started a WhatsApp group and invited us all into this group. Here's the advantage of that group. One, we can vent. Like, sometimes you're genuinely frustrated with how a client treats you, and talking to people who are like-minded helps you like say what's eating you up. And sometimes you genuinely don't know how to respond, because sometimes clients are rude and you don't know how to respond like professionally. So this is one of the best advantages I find in being in this group. When we are communicating, when someone asks for advice, there's always someone willing to help and share that if it was me, I would say it this way. And also, I feel safe enough in that group to know, even if I vent extremely to the point where maybe I sleep and say, oh, Jane said this to me, I know it won't go back to Jane. I feel safe enough. Hopefully I'm Taniruka. But at the same time, you have people around you who understand the same things you go through, so it becomes easier to talk to them. Number two, that mentality I had to have all the cake tins, all the baking trays, everything. I had to purchase all the molds, all the spatulas, all the stencils. At this point, when you order something from me, I don't have that item. Before I even tell you the price, my number one thing is going to that group and ask, hey, do you have this? If they don't, I know other bakers, even if they live a bit further, I'll ask. Before I communicate with my client, yes, I can do the design, or can we change up the design? I will first ask these people before making a purchase, because sometimes items are expensive. Some other items you only get to use once and never use it again. So the advantage of being in like a community around you is you can get to borrow items. And like, if you guys have the trust, I'm not saying join a community and then maybe one of you is a thief, because I've had people borrow my stuff and deny that they borrowed them. But it's all good. When we get to heaven, God has seen. But yeah, so that's a very huge advantage with surrounding yourself with people who think like you, are in the same industry as you, because you won't, like, it's a financial gain. Because I have some stencils other people don't have. They borrow mine, I borrow theirs. There are people who borrowed from me, I've never borrowed from them. But because we're in one community, it becomes easier. Another advantage of being in the community, like now when I'm not baking, if one of my clients wants a cake, I already have a group of, I think we're 30 in the group chat. I know there's 30 ladies here who could possibly take up the order. I know amongst these 30 ladies who needs advance, like a month notice. So if my client wants a cake next weekend, I know I can't send them to this person. I know this person who works with whipping cream only. I know this person works with fudge cream only. I know this one has kids. This one doesn't have kids. This one is able to take last minute orders. Like, I think of those things before I can recommend. I know this client would be able, this baker would be able to do this design, so I'll send my client to them. Like, it's a wholesome community to be in. So I will definitely recommend being in a community. And when I say be in a community, don't join. Not all communities are good communities. When I first joined a baking community, I thought I was in a safe space. I thought it was a place where I could share my knowledge and have my, like, other people reciprocate. But turns out jealousy is killing girls out here. Like, when I started, like, kujulikana, like, I said in my shop series or my 10-year series, in 2016 I figured out this is who I want to be as Pastry Pleasures. When, like, it clicked, I started working with brands. This community manager started, like, nasty things, like, would ensure my posts can't be seen, saying nasty things about me. This person even threatened me with the CID. Back then it was called CID, not DCI. Like, they hacked my Facebook, and I'm going definitely, I don't know, I hope I don't chicken out from including this part into the series, but yeah, they did such vile things to me just for the sake of, like, eventually someone informed me that they don't want to see other people grow further than they have. And you know what, I checked them out like 1 or 2 years later, and 2014 them and 2019 them, there's no difference. So I don't even understand the pettiness. They were so horrible, and that's, I think, my first moment of realizing not everyone who acts as your friend is a friend. They will support you, but once they see you surpassing them, they will be like, aye, and start, like, putting you down and trying to ruin your name and your business. So don't just join a community because it looks big, it looks like, these people are fun to be around. Just be careful with who you consider your community. You'd rather be a community of 2 people, but 2 wholesome people, as opposed to being 3,000 people, and the ringleader of the 3,000 is a horrible person who will make you want to give up on your business. My next advice would be outsource what needs to be outsourced. As I've said, learn everything that you need to learn about your business, but don't break your back doing everything. E.g., I won't make flowers. There's nothing in this world that, let me tell you, before you find me making a flower, I have tried my level best. So outsource what needs to be outsourced. Anything that I find is too time consuming, I personally would rather outsource. And you'll find the price I would charge my client for me to do them, like say cakesicles, I would probably charge a client much more than someone who constantly does cakesicles. And because I find it time consuming, so I'd charge higher for my labor. But someone who does them consistently already probably knows, or they have another order that week, so they know this will itenda haraka, it will be faster. So I'd rather outsource. Anything I hate doing, I would rather outsource. I hate making toppers, I hate making flowers, I hate doing chocolate work, so I'd rather outsource. And it's 90% of the time, it's usually cheaper for my client if I buy the items from someone else as opposed to me making them myself. So 100%, anything you can outsource, outsource. And sometimes people are more talented than you. For example, flower making. When I show my students, obviously, I'm good at making flowers. But at the same time, Evelyn Gishuki is better at making flowers than I am. So I would rather purchase from someone who I find more talented than me to do them, especially because she's more talented than I am in that department. And secondly, I hate doing it, so win-win. My client is happy, spent less money than I would have billed her if I did them myself, and my work looks chef's kiss like good because someone else did something quite good, and then I add them to my cake and my work looks perfect. I hope you start your home baking business soon. I hope you won't have a challenge and it will be much easier for you as opposed to how it was for me. And I hope you keep coming back to the channel for more tips and more advice. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.